And so much of my work has been about iteration. And you can call it whatever you want, minimum viable product, if we're using the language of lean startup methodology. It's all makahana ka'ike. It's all getting an idea out into the world and getting data and information back on it, right? And that is so curse word hard to teach to teenagers, because they're only used to, they're colonized, I'm using that word a lot, to only put out work that's perfect. And so getting them, breaking that cycle, right? And the adults as well, like to get an imperfect idea out there so that it can gain traction, so that you can learn from it, is exceptionally difficult. And so it's taken a lot to kind of be able to whittle away at that over and over again. But I think, it's really important to get them to try. A student who's focused on trying to fight fast fashion by reusing clothing and creating her art all over it. Her first few iterations were not very good. And I say that lovingly. And I think she recognizes that as well. But by the third or fourth, they were incredible. And by the fifth or sixth or seventh, she had a viable business on her hands. And it influenced so many capstone projects the following year to kind of follow in a similar vein. And so for me, Unrulr was this incredible learning project management vessel. There are so many others that we can utilize as well. But I made the mistake of trying to introduce them too early. I made the mistake of fetishizing project management, entrepreneurship language, trying to get all the Olin College of Engineering, Stanford D School stuff in there too, and it did not resonate with adults or youth. When we used terms that came from Hawaii or from Hawaiian culture, they resonated. And so Asana flamed out. Basecamp did not work. Trello has worked in small pockets. Slack works for communication. But for me, Unrulr was this kind of perfect conduit for adults and students to be able to kind of learn together and then also share out what they were working on. It also helps that I work for Unrulr and the head of growth and community is in my title, so I'm a bit biased. But it's been really beautiful this year to get to work with 40 schools, 20 of which in Hawaii, a numerous amount of nonprofits. My favorite being Vibrant Hawaii. I say that with not because 3 people from there or maybe 4 are on this call, but because it's been so meaningful. But I think analog tools are really powerful too in having learners share out and kind of document this space as well. And to get them to build confidence that they can do project management, that they can get their ideas out into the world. So I don't think assessment is useful unless it's actionable and unless it comes at the right time. And so that's really been my journey as a teacher and as an educator. And I've only learned by failing just out of the gate numerous times, of having beautiful visions and then getting assessment too late where it doesn't matter at all. And so, so much of that process is kind of rooted in empathy for learners, is rooted in them understanding how powerful it is to have edits and to get feedback and to not have to put perfect work out there too. I'm not quite sure why this picture represents what I'm saying, but it's a cool picture. This is a really cool moment. My first job in teaching was digital journalism. It's Marty Barron, who at one time ran the Washington Post. My goal in education was just to connect students with people in industry. And it wasn't just tech, it wasn't just journalism, it was also cultural practitioners. And it's a moment where one of the most important people in journalism is working with students on their digital storytelling products and projects, right? And so much of my role in education has been creating a connection and getting out of the way, facilitating, building skills so that mentors and youth know what to do when they're working with each other. But at Nalukai, at HPA, even at Unrulr, my work is as a conduit. My work is as a connector. And so it's just about building those kinds of key skills that are there. And being able to capture and find all of the evidence of the magic that's occurring as well. In learning communities, you can replace student with learner. There's kind of what we grade at the very bottom, what we tell students are important, and then there's student experiences at the very top. And these are the most important things. These are not just qualitative or quantitative data points. These are sensory data points, right? These allow us to understand how a learner is actually kind of getting there. And it wasn't until I used Unrulr as a educator before I came on that I was able to kind of really capture all of those experiences as well. And I think, so much of my work in this space, and it doesn't matter if you're using Unrulr, just any tool that allows you to try to, capture all of these experiences and kind of code and tag them out. There's so much of what we don't see, right? And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's what we tell learners is important, whether they're students or not. And, success comes from all of these elements that you don't see. And so much of my kind of learning and education in there have been a part of that. And I think what was pretty beautiful about how Pooh and I used Unrulr was that it was really about culture. It was about equity and inclusion and social and emotional learning first. We used the tool to understand who our learners were and where they came from. We used the tool and platform to understand what fuels them, and to allow other learners to see that as well. So, in short, I'm hitting my 220 mark. My journey has really been rooted in the collective. My journey has been rooted in understanding the power of working with others and being taught by others. So thank you. A little scattershot, but I'm super grateful for the time to get to meet you all.